Welcome back to the Caregiver Minute, where every weekday family and professional caregivers gather to refine their skills, gain inspiration, and prepare to serve. Many people have taken medications for mental health challenges like anxiety or depression or agitation or hallucinations, and they've had some benefits in the short run, only to have the effectiveness wane in the long term. And many of those medications come with some pretty bad side effects, everything from weight gain and sluggishness and fatigue to more serious things. A lot of psychotropic drugs come with black box warnings that state that they increase all-cause mortality in elderly patients, especially those with dementia. Well, that means that people with dementia that take those drugs are more likely to die for any reason. So why is it that the way that these medications affect us is so varied, and it can change a lot over time? I think the more that we understand about particular medications and how they affect the body, the more we can be good advocates for the people that we're serving and for ourselves, and we can make wiser choices. In a recent book titled Brain Energy, Dr. Christopher Palmer, an assistant professor of psychiatry from Harvard Medical School, wrote about an analogy that I think does a great job of explaining what's going on in a lot of these cases. He first explains that some cells in the brain might be hyperexcitable. Think about a seizure, where cells are just firing randomly and everything is out of control. We see that in Parkinson's disease as well. Some cells also don't produce enough energy and they don't fire exactly the way that they should, and so you might see depressive-like symptoms. In diseases like Alzheimer's, you have a major energy deficit. And in the case of Alzheimer's, it starts in the hippocampi, the memory control tower. And when those cells aren't producing sufficient energy, your memory quits working. And so you get symptoms like short-term memory loss, and people repeat themselves over and over. And they experience all kinds of disconnects in their world because they don't remember all the things that they're forgetting. Dr. Palmer then says, consider that the brain is like a transportation system, with freeways and highways and other roads that are a little bit smaller. Think about a road system going into a really big city. And imagine that all the cars are like the cells of the brain, and the drivers are mitochondria, and some cars might be traveling at normal freeway speed. In fact, if the cells are working really well and the brain is healthy, it's like traffic just moves along smoothly. But what happens if you get some aggressive drivers that are speeding and they're cutting people off and they're causing accidents? You might have a complete stop to the flow of traffic on some roadways if a driver cuts off a semi and causes an accident and you got a jackknife semi out in the middle of the road. In the brain, if cells are hyperexcitable, there's a lot that can stop working. What if you start slowing down those drivers that are aggressive and they're causing problems? Once they slow down to freeway speed, the traffic is moving much more normally. But what if they slow down more and more and more, and they get slower and slower, and pretty soon they're going 10 miles an hour on the freeway? Now they're going to cause backups and problems and potential accidents for an entirely different reason. And what if you not only slowed down the aggressive drivers, but those that were driving at normal freeway speed as well? Maybe they're rubbernecking looking at the accident, and they start slowing down, and all of a sudden you've got traffic stoppages, and things aren't moving so well in that area. Well, in other parts of the transportation system, things might be moving normally, but you could have some areas that really back up. And if those backups start spilling over into other areas, pretty soon you get worsening problems in a broad range of areas. Think about what happens with some of the medication that people take as like having an effect on the drivers of those cars. Some medications speed things up and some medications slow things down. And if you slow down cells too much, then over time you cause different problems than if those cells were hyperexcitable. And if you slow down cells that are functioning normally, then you might get really negative side effects. I recently spoke to a family whose father was put on an epilepsy medication that also gets used as a mood stabilizer. It does a great job of slowing things down so a person doesn't have seizures. And when someone is agitated, it can also slow things down so that they're a little bit more calm. Unfortunately, this medication slowed him down so much over time that he couldn't even talk. He could hardly put words together. And when you tried to interact with him, even non-verbally, he wouldn't so much as shake your hand. He'd just kind of stare at you and not really know what to do. And once that medication was tapered away, his personality started coming back. He started shaking hands. He started smiling. He started saying words and phrases again and having much more of a normal interaction. In other words, the cars on certain stretches of road on his highway system slowed down so much that they were practically at a standstill. But once the factor that was slowing down those cars was removed, the traffic started flowing again. And little by little, day after day, things started functioning a bit more normally. I hope this analogy and explanation help you understand a little bit better why medications affect different people in different ways, and why it's so important to avoid psychotropic usage if we can at all help it. And if we do use them, it's best to only use them for very short periods of time and work on other lifestyle factors that make a difference. Overall, if you keep the cells as healthy as possible, then the traffic moves more smoothly. That's why we talk so often here on the Caregiver Minute about things like exercise and sleep and stress management and eating an anti-inflammatory diet without processed foods and a host of other factors that all improve the health of the cells of the body so we can keep the traffic moving as effectively as possible. Well, thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon for another episode of the Caregiver Minute.